Right, hello everybody. I have decided that it's time to post another video again and that we need to do revision on the general ledger accounts that you have been taught in the first term of grade 12. We've got a couple of new accounts and I'm going to show you how to enter all the transactions linked to them in the general ledger. So if we look at the activity, they will always start by giving us a couple of balances. I've got ordinary share capital, retained income, source, and dividends. And then I've got a list of transactions. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to fill in those balances in my general ledger. So without further ado, let's start. We now in grade 12 work with an account called ordinary share capital. It is still your capital account, so it will always go to the credit side. Okay, I must just check my dates over here. It's November the 1st. Okay, so November the 1st, I will have my balance and it's 8.6 million. I can also fill in retained income. It's also part of owner's equity, 640,000. So retained income is a new account to grade 12. I talk about my, piggy bank. In a company, there will hopefully at the end of the year be money left. And the money that's left will be entered in retained income. It's saved there. So it's the little savings that's left. So that's what you normally do. You put everything in your piggy bank that's left. And the moment you need to desperately buy something, you're going to use the money from your piggy bank. So that's basically what retained income is. Okay. Then I've got SARS, and SARS has a credit balance. Okay. And I can't spell today. Credit balance of 11,000 Rand. How do I know that it's a credit balance? They will clearly indicate in the question that it's a debit or a credit balance. Or they'll give you columns and they'll put the SARS amount in the credit column or in the debit column. Okay. And then I've got shareholders for dividends. That happens on the 1st. What am I doing today? Okay. Balance 140,000. Shareholders for dividends is a liability. So I owe money to the shareholders. What money am I owing? Money on dividends. In this case, with SARS income tax, it's also a liability because it's on the credit side. I owe money to SARS. I have not paid enough taxes the previous year. If the balance is on the debit side, it will be an asset, which means I technically paid too much. Okay. Then let's start. On the 1st of November, first day of my financial year, the company issued a further 1.2 million shares at 4 Rand each. So let's enter that. I will be receiving money. Okay. So it will be bank 1.2 million shares times 4 Rand each. Okay. Let's just quickly, I think it's 4.8 million. 4.8 million Rand. Okay. So that's money that the company received when they issued shares. Next up, on the 20th of November, I am paying the amounts owed to SARS and shareholders. They are referring to my two debts that I've got, my two credit balances. And all I have to do is just pay them. So SARS will be paid on the 20th of November. That will be banked 11,000. And I'm going to do the same thing with shareholders for dividends. We pay the amount owed. What I then like doing is there's different methods that your teacher might use, but I like to draw double lines underneath both of them because that means it's done. The account is now empty. I don't owe anything. Same thing with dividends. The account is empty. I don't owe anything. Other teachers like to finish the entire year, leave everything as is. I like to do it like this. It's closed. Done. Okay. On the 30th of April, the company will pay provisional tax. So now with provisional tax, it's very important to take note that you will be paying this twice. That's your first payment, and later during the year over there, we've got our second tax payment. We'll always make two. And on this same day, we will be paying interim dividends. Okay? Dividends is also paid twice. Interim dividends, more or less halfway during the year, and then the directors will declare a final dividend at the end of the year. Also 2 entries. So let's go to the 30th of April. I'm paying provisional taxes, 235,000 Rand. I'm paying, so it is back. On that same day, I'll have to go back and get the amounts, but I am, oh sorry, not there. I'm paying dividends. So when I'm paying dividends, I need to go to my expense account for dividends, April 30th, back. So now let's go and look. Interim dividends of 20 cents per share to all the shareholders. So now I need to go and figure out how many shareholders or shares did I issue. I started with 4.3 million, and then we added another 1.2 million. Okay, so in total, 4.3 million plus 1.2 million gives me 5.5 million shares. I'm going to multiply that with 20 cents. 20 cents, that gives me 1,100,000 Rand. And that is the amount that I'm going to enter in my expense account. Okay, so that's my interim dividend. Interim dividend will always be paid halfway during the year. It is always paid, therefore we will always enter back. Okay. Then we move on. Now we are at the end of the year, and we need to make the second provisional tax payment of 190,000 Rand. So I need to go to my SARS account. I'm paying, so it's bank, 190,000. Then the directors declared a final dividend of 15 cents per share, and it's applicable to all shareholders. So again, I have to figure out how many shares are in issue. I've already calculated it over there, 4.3 million, and then I issued another 1.2 million. If I bought back shares before you declare the final dividend, we would have had to minus it over there. But the buyback only happens over here after I declared a dividend. So I have nothing to subtract, only all the shares that was issued, and I'm going to multiply with 15 cents times 0.15, and then I get 825,000 Rand. So that is my final dividend. Now the final dividend works a bit differently. I'm going to fill it in over here with all my dividends. This is all my dividends for my year. And 825,000. Okay. It is extremely important to take note that the final dividend will not be paid. Therefore, I cannot write back. I owe the money to the shareholders. It's only declared. Therefore, this entry will be entered over here in shareholders for dividends. $825,000. Okay, So those two are the same. Okay. On that note, I did my calculations on my question page. It is extremely important that you show how you got to the answer in your question. So for that one over there, it's 5.5 million. Let me just make sure I got all my zeros correct. And I multiplied with 20 cents. Okay, because you can get part marks for showing your calculations. Right. So I filled in my final dividend. It's the one that's declared at the end of the year. I owe the money, so it goes to shareholders for dividends. Now I'm on the next thing. The next one is that the directors decided to buy back 250,000 shares from a shareholder, Billy Pike, for R2.80 per share. The moment when we see buyback, I'm first going to pause and I'm going to work out three things. Okay. So when we do buyback, we need three amounts. We need the average, we need the loss amount, and we need the amount that we paid. Okay. And I'm going to do it in two columns. They already gave me the paid amount. I'm paying R2.80 for the shares. In order to work out the average, I need to take the full rand amount. So what I did was I already quickly added up all my capital, all my shares. So that is what I had in issue. Then I added 1.2 million. So my total rand amount is 13.4 million rand. So that goes on top, 13.4 million. And I'm going to divide it with the number of shares. And the total that we've got up to date is 5.5 million shares. And then I get R2.44. I just rounded it up. Okay, my calculator showed me 2.43, so I just rounded it up to R2.44. Then I can work out that my loss amount will be the difference between those two. Okay, and that is minus 44.36 cents. Right. So I need the price per share. It's very important also for when we get to the income statement and the balance sheet later on. The number of shares that I bought back is 250,000 shares. So I need to multiply each of these with 250,000. So I get 610. Over here, I get 700, which means this one will be 90,000. Okay. The average plus the loss will give me the amount paid, or the amount paid minus the average will give me the loss amount. So then I'm going to use these three. I've got three amounts. They will be entered in three different accounts. That one, the average, will always go to my capital account. The loss will always go to retained income. This is now why I say this is the piggy bank. I desperately, quickly need money. I need to buy back the shares. Where do you get money? From your piggy bank. And this will go to my actual bank account. I'll have to pay the full amount. So now if I go to my capital account, I'm going to enter the date, October 31st. I am paying, and the amount that we said goes to our ordinary share capital is 610,000 rand. The other one that I'm now going to enter is the 90,000. That will go to retained income. R90,000. And I'm also going to write here how I got to the answer. That was R2.44, and this one was 250,000 times the loss amount of 36 cents. Let's see what's left. That was the buyback. They completed the audit and the net profit before tax was calculated 2.95 thousand rand. Let me just get it again. 2950. Net profit will be entered in my appropriation account. October 31st. I'm doing it again. 2950. Okay, so that's my net profit. Now, if I go back to the question, that was the last thing, okay? Oh, I see here I made a typing error. Let's just make that 28%. That is the normal percentage that they use on average, either 28 or 30%. I've done everything, okay? I'm at the bottom. So now I go back to my answer book and I start with my appropriation account because at the end of the year, I have to pay three things with my net profit. This net profit is now my income, all the income of the company, minus all the expenses of the company. Okay, they've done that already and they are giving me a net profit. Now I still have to pay or make three additional entries. The first one is, according to law, I need to pay income tax. You don't have to write the 28%, it's just to help us calculate and understand what's going on. I need to pay income tax, okay? 28% of my net profit will be income tax, so there we go. That is my first payment, that's the one that I write first because it's law, I cannot get out of it. Ordinary share dividends. Okay, the next thing that a company will pay after they've done and calculated their profit is dividends. Dividends is second because it's not a law, but as a company we will pay dividends to our shareholders. So the amount that I'm going to use is all my dividends for the year added together. The one that I pay, my interim, as well as my final dividend. So basically what we're going to do with this account is we are going to close it off to the appropriation account at the end of the year. Appropriation account. Okay, so that 1925 will be entered over there. And then what we do is we hope that there's money left. So my net profit is 2.95 million. And if I subtract the income tax of 826,000 and I subtract all the dividends, there is 199,000 left. So the money that is left will go, that's my savings basically, that's left. So the money that is left, why can't I get my lines in here? The money that's left will go to my piggy bank, retained income. It's on the debit side over here, which means it will go to the credit side of retained income. And the date is October 31st. Okay. Then, one last thing that we need to do is you will have to go and study that income tax. And it's the short, I use the shortcut, okay? Income tax will be entered in 4 places, okay? The first place where it will actually be entered is over here as an expense. Just get the amount again, 826. Which means I'm going to enter it in my SARS account. and then it will be closed off to the appropriation account. Okay, so let's color code them to help you. That yellow and this yellow is the same. I'm closing my expense account off to the appropriation account, and the actual expense, I know I'm doing it a bit backwards, the actual expense, let's just get a nice light pink for us, is entered over there, okay? But we enter the amount 4 times. So now I'm going to do my double lines again because this account is now closed off. I closed it off to the appropriation account. Okay, my appropriation account is done. I've filled in my income tax. Dividends is done. It's closed off. Income tax account is done. My liability account shows that I owe dividends. It stays there. And then I've got my SARS account. I now need to figure out, did I pay too much or too little? In total, I paid 425 Rand in taxes. I had to pay 826 Rand, which means I still owe 401 Rand. So that will be my balance. Okay, so the full amount of the year will be like that. And then in the new year, November the 1st, it will clearly indicate that I still owe money to SARS. Now, very important, this is my weird example that I showed you. A company will never have such a big payment. They estimate their net profit during the year so that those two payments together will be as close as possibly can to the income tax. Okay, my example, my amounts, it's a bit skewed, so your balance at the end will normally be a bit smaller. You try and be as accurate as possible. Then retained income must just be balanced. So let's work that out. 839 on the one side. And then we're going to subtract the 90,000 to get a balance. So I actually have a lot of money left in my piggy bank for a rainy day. This will be November 1st. Balance. Let's just be, I'm also always so lazy to draw my total lines in, but there's my lines. And then in my share capital account, I must also just work out the balance. 610, 12, 790. And this will be my balance. I really hope that it helped you. This is the foundation for accounting in grade 12. You need to understand how specifically these first two accounts work, especially with the buyback. You need to know how to work out the three amounts and where they go. That's very important. You use it in the income statement, in the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement. Then you also need to understand how your SARS account works, that you can have a credit balance or a debit balance. You also need to make sure that you remember shareholders for dividends is a liability and dividends on ordinary shares is the expense. And then please keep your appropriation account and the layout of it at the back of your mind, because when you're going to get to the cash flow statement later on, you might have to go back and actually draw this account and use it to work out certain amounts. But I really hope this video was insightful. Please keep an eye out. I will be posting a couple of new videos in due